We are in Siman Kufma Malaf. We're starting now the next siman about Purim. So it says the Kitzur like this: Mishanichnes Adar. When the month of Adar starts, Marbin Besimcha, we increase in joy. Now the Rebbe says about this, it's not only when the month of Adar starts, but actually we start this already from the Shabbos that you Shabbos Mevorchim Adar. So technically, this Shabbos already would have been the Shabbos of Mishanichnes Adar. In some years, in some years, this would apply. In some years, in some years, this would apply to the first Adar. That means that it could be 2 months, and starting from already the Shabbos Mevarchim before the first Adar, this already would be when we would start this. Now, what does it mean? The Rebbe says this. 1 second. Things you're asking about where the Rebbe speaks about Adarishin, so you could see on the bottom where there's the Ada Aleph, it says Gam Adarishin about from Shabbos Varachim. So if you look in the Rebbe speaks about the Sichos in Chelik Aleph, if you want to look it up. So over there the Rebbe writes it in the Sicha, but it's quoted, I believe, maybe even in Sefer Menagim. I think they quote it as well. So it's multiple places. It's not a Chiddush, but it's actually not a Chiddush at all, by the way, because we already see a little bit of this. We already see a little bit of this in Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, when they talk about Adar Rishon. Over there it says about Purim. If there's anything you celebrate, over there it says the Toiv Leiv Mishta Tamid. Yeah, you know that they use a pasuk. It's the last thing of Orach Chaim of Shulchan Aruch. And over there the Ramah writes that basically that someone who's joyful is joyful. So why not on Purim Katan to be joyful as well? So it talks about that, which is Adar Rishon, that you're already going to experience this type of thing. So it's already quoted in a few places. Now, what does it mean when you say that Marbim Besimcha, you should be more joyful? So this does not mean that you have more su'udis and you do more things. There are certain, and the Rebbe actually has a sicha, or a letter actually, where he writes to someone different levels of simcha that are there. There's a simcha shal mitzvah, I think. There's a simcha of different things. I forgot exactly what it is. And one of them is just to be joyful. And over there, the Rebbe applies that to this. But when you're talking about the joy of Adar, there's no specific thing that we're referring to. It's just to be more joyful, and that could mean doing things that bring you joy. Now, it doesn't mean obviously Hilulus and things like that the place can bring down, but it means to be in a state of joy. So the mashal I saw tonight, you guys are going to have dancing and music. Oh, sorry, so I was not supposed to say.
No, it's on. It's outside.
Oh, it's on. Okay.
We're not sure what he's.
Oh, okay. I don't know what it means. I just saw someone wrote it. So that's an example of doing something besimcha, which is not really inherently a mitzvah, but it's increasing in simcha and joy. I saw one place that wrote that it became a minhag to write Mishanichas Mar Besimcha on the wall. I don't know, signs and shul or whatever. So I don't know if that's a real thing, but maybe yeah, maybe no. But the point is that it's not a specific thing. Have more sodas, do this, do that. It's more about finding yourself experiencing more joy, and that itself is a good thing. And this could even be if it's something that's a reshus, meaning not necessarily connected specifically to a mitzvah, but just to bring you more joy. Now, one of the ways this would play itself out is that traditionally people don't get married in the second half of the month. Now, nowadays it's not a thing anymore because Baruch Hashem, the communities have grown so much that it would be impossible for everyone to get married if we only were on the days that people would in the past get married. So therefore, nowadays people already get married generally during both halves of the month. But even back in the day, when people wouldn't get married in the second half of the month, when it came to Adar, they would. This would be an idea of where you could experience more joy and it would be fine. Now, another way we see this also is that that if a Yid has a court case with a non-Jew, so you should choose that the court date should be during this month as well. And the place where we see that is we contrast it with Chodesh Av. When it comes to Chodesh Av, it says when Av comes in, you should limit your joy. And one of those examples are that if you have a court case, you should not do it then, or at least not till at least Chamisha Asr B'Av, and even maybe Elul if you could push it off. So over here, it's going to be. We see the contrast, which would be the other way, which, by the way, is also where the idea you mentioned of the Simcha in Chodesh in the first month, it comes from this as well. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was born, seemingly, I believe it was in Adar Aleph. Yeah, so because I think Moshe Rabbeinu was born Well, truth is, I think he was born then. It could be not, but over there, but halacha mentions that for those that used to fast on his yahrzeit, even though it's also his birthday, so they would already fast in Chodesh in other Rishon. So if you're already commemorating sort of like the heaviness of it, then the joy of it you have to start commemorating just as well, and that's one of the places where it comes. But I believe that the Magen Avram says that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Chodesh Adar, Rishon. So already that's where it comes from. Now on this also the Rebbe explains a little bit more of why does the whole month get infused with joy just because of Purim, or maybe Zion Adar if you want to use Moshe Rabbeinu thing. So again, the same thing the Rebbe talks about the contrast with Av. Now when it comes to the month of Av, we see the whole month is not a good day. Why not? Because whatever happened only happened because of the heaviness of the day. It's not like things happened and that made the day heavy of Tisha B'Av. For example, we know that there's a few things that happened on Tisha B'Av. It wasn't just one thing. The day itself is not a positive day, and therefore things resulted from there. So the same thing, L'Ma'al Yusa would be the same thing. The whole month of Adar is a joyful time. We know how Haman went and he tried to choose which day to go against the Yidden. He threw lots, and it wasn't the first. It wasn't the first thing. It fell out. It wasn't the 14th of Adar. It was this thing and that thing, and each one he had another reason why he didn't want to do it. Then this is a good month for the Yidden for this. This is a good month for the Yidden for that. And he thought that the whole month was a bad month because Moshe Rabbeinu passed away at Zion Adar. He didn't know that really Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and Moshe Rabbeinu was a tzaddik, which means that when he's born, his potential is already expressed, which means that Zion Adar is actually a joyful day, more than a sad day. So the whole month was a joyful time, and that's why we're marbe b'simcha. Now it happens to be that apparently on Zion Adar, the Rebbe writes this in a sicha, and it's also quoted in Sefer Menagim as well, that the Nesiim, after they became Rebbes, they would not say Tachnun on Zion Adar, but everyone else officially does say Tachnun. So, meaning it was a specific thing for the Rebbes, and even then, only after the Nesius. Okay, either way, we see that there's this idea of joy. Let's move on. Now, Sid Beis. What's the story? So everyone knows the story, but it's printed here, so we'll do it quickly. Bimei Mordechai the Esther, in the times of Mordechai and Esther. So just to give you an idea, times of Mordechai and Esther are exactly in between the first and second Beis Hamikdash, right? And that was the whole thing, that they calculated 70 years, and they thought that they calculated wrong, and they thought that the Yidden are going to be stuck in Golus, which is why he threw his party, because he thought that now it's settled. The Poil, it wasn't. He thought he had his calculations correct, but the Kitzur, similar to Nebuchadnezzar, it wasn't quite done. But either way, the point is that it was during this time between the two Beis Hamikdash that that on the 13th of the month, the Yidden gathered together. They were given permission. They were trained, maybe. They were given weapons from the government. They were able to protect themselves. So they gathered together to protect themselves. Now, during a time of war, obviously, they had to ask and plead Hashem for Rahmanus. So what ends up happening is that on the 13th of the month, when they start this war against their enemies, and the enemies were very willing participants in the war, which means that the Yidden only fought with whoever came to the battle, yeah? So whoever came wanted to kill Yidden even after everything, by the way. So the point is, they come, and the Yidden have to dive into the Eibishter. And what comes out from there? What do we know in general? Anytime the Yidden are in a battle, His'anu sheyadzreim Hashem. Anytime Yidden are in a tzara, they fast so that Hashem should help them. This is a general rule. The Gam Moshe Rabbeinu, all of Hashem, we even see this in the Torah. In the Torah, we had a few weeks ago where there was Bayim Shemilchim Amalek, the day the Yidden were fighting with Amalek. That what happened then? His'ana, they were fasting. Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu had his hands up and he got weak and he put his hands down. And they came to Aaron and Aaron and they came to hold it up. And he was davening. So we see that anytime there's a tzara that the Yidden need to, do some sort of battle, they fast and they daven to Hashem. So ve'im kain, if that's the case, mistama gamos, b'mei Mordechai v'Esther, during this time as well, which would be the time that the Yidden are going to go to war in the time of Purim. Also, hisanu b'yem shleisha asr l'chedesh adar. They also would have fasted on the day they went to battle. What's the day they went to battle? On the 13th. Right, that was the first thing. Which is because of this, as a result of this, the Yidden took upon themselves to fast for the future years. And because of what was going on, Vinikra, Tainus Esther. The name that was given was Tainus Esther. Why? In order that the Yidden should realize when they're fasting that the Eibishter, Raya v'Shemea Tfilas Kol Ish, Hashem sees and hears and listens to the tefillah of every person, when they have a tzara. Kasher Yis'ana, when they fast, the Yoshev al Hashem Mecholavova, and they return to Hashem, just like Hashem did in those days. Now, the Rebbe actually has an interesting letter where the Rebbe is writing to someone, and he says, "I didn't write to you right away. It was in the date of the letter. It said it was Tainus Esther Nidche, I think, but it was Tainus Esther." So over there, the Rebbe writes on the bottom, like a footnote. I didn't respond to you right away, and I was thinking about, I guess, because he was writing it on Tainus Esther, or the letter was sent out then. So I was thinking about this fast of Tainus Esther and the name, and he says, if you think about it, who fasted on the 13th? Nobody fasted on the 13th. Because anyone that actually went to battle, they're not allowed to fast. Because anything you do to weaken your position is asur. They're going to fast to fight on the 13th. They have to be in their full koyach. So who fasted on the 13th? One person. No, it's a good point. The women didn't go to battle, but it sounds like they didn't fast either for whatever reason it was. One person fasted was Esther. She's the only one that was able to fast, which is why we call it Tainus Esther, by the way. That's what the Rebbe says. The reason we call it Tainus Esther is because really she's the only one that fasted. Now, it doesn't mean they didn't fast. They probably fasted on a different day. But if we're commemorating the war, if we're commemorating this whole thing of tefillah and Hashem answering, then and connected to the fast, so that would be Tainus Esther. That would be the most thing. Now, because of what it is, there are certain kulas. Yeah, what does that mean? Usually, the other four fasts, they all have to do with a tzara. It was a tragedy. Something happened. The Beis HaMikdash was surrounded. Gedalia was killed. The Beis HaMikdash, the walls were breached. The Beis HaMikdash was burnt. All these terrible tragedies that happened, Rahman al-Islam. So we have fast. Tainus Esther wasn't like that. They were davening to Hashem to save them, so they fasted. So we commemorate to remember that Hashem saves people when we daven to Hashem. But it's not a sad fast like the other days. And therefore, there's a lot of kulas. For example, now when it comes to a regular fast, even if it's only during the day, the night before, people don't get married, people don't listen to music the whole day of the fast, people don't get haircuts, some people don't bathe, take showers, like as if it was like a, Tisha B'Av type of thing. So there's different levels, but the point is there's a lot of chumras that people would do because it's a fast and it's a sad day. Over here, you don't have those. So you can get married the night before, technically. You could take a haircut, you could listen to music, you could take shower. I mean, nowadays people take showers in general because it's not like it used to be. But the point is that you don't have these restrictions because, at least most of these restrictions, because it's not a sad fast. It's a commemorative fast, but it's not a sad fast. Yeah. So some people do for yard sites, they do fast. There was a whole Megillah called Megillah's Tainus that used to quote all different fasts, but people got weak, and therefore most of it we take away. So most of it we don't keep anymore. But people used to fast on many more days.
So we said we're like an actual fast, or like morning to night.
So it depends. There are different things. Some would do morning to night. Some people would do till chatzos. So whatever. They're all different levels, depending on what was going on. But the point is, we don't. And it is a day of tachnun. I mean, it says that I believe it's Sefer Menagim. The Rebbe speaks about that on a yard site. We do say tachnun. Other people specifically don't say tachnun. Other chassidim, when they have yard sites, they don't say tachnun. So they don't say tachnun and basically ever. Right, exactly. They find a Rebbe that or something out of a yard site. But by us, we actually officially do say tachnun. I know some shows don't, but what? I think it's around. I mean, we know the days. I think so. Yeah, we just don't follow it. We have it. We just don't follow it. Yes. Why did they need permission to fight back? So right. So let's leave it like this for now. But a short answer is like this. The way I understand it is that if the government does not want you to, that means the government is not going to give you arms. They're going to stop you from protecting yourself. They're going to restrict the things you can do. They're going to arm your enemies, and they're going to stand there. It's like we saw in other situations in history where the Goyim would go and they would have a pogrom. And what did the government do? You think why couldn't the Yidden protect themselves? because that's not how it was. But here, they allowed them to protect themselves. They probably gave them certain things. They probably set up different things, and also when the government comes out and says, we're not encouraging this, then most normal people don't go to fight against the Yidden. Those that did were, they were, they were the ones that deserved what they got anyways. Okay, but let's leave it for now. I just want to know if they're recording here. Yeah.